we talked about innovation in your offering, innovation in go-to-market, innovation in sales. One of the other key areas of innovation that we see in the market, and honestly, as we look across the alliance, the companies that are getting into verticals and really investing heavily in verticals are the ones that are making the big steps in terms of success, right? So, actually, you've had, yeah. So it'll be interesting because you've stepped into a new business. So I think a lot of us have worked at horizontal companies where we've been focused on let's not go into one vertical because we've got this huge horizontal play and blah blah blah, and then we find that it's hard to actually sell and make revenue when we don't understand the customer, which is another key theme, right? So we're going to dig into that. First, I want to do some let everybody do some quick intros. Michael Brandenburg, something's different. You shaved or did something between CASA24 and now?
A couple little things.
Yeah.
Mike Brandenburg, senior analyst from Frost & Sullivan. 2 months ago, I started as a senior product marketing manager at RingCentral, focused on verticals and programmable communications.
Cool.
So.
Hi, my name is Thomas Howe. I'm current CTO of Strolid. I'm also the author of the upcoming IETF standard VCon. My entire life was spent in telecom design. My father did this work. And about 3 years ago, I joined the staff of my CEO partner, Vinny, and we now sell cars for a living. And we spent the last 3 years designing communication systems specifically designed for the people who run the stores that sell the cars.
Hey everybody, John Common, CEO and founder of Intelligent Demand. We help enterprise and mid-market companies go to market smarter and then drive demand that they can convert with their sales team.
Yeah. So it's interesting, we got a couple of technology companies, we've got a services company, but verticals is a big thing no matter where you are, right? And I made reference to the fact if you're in a horizontal company, especially as a CEO and you originally put together this huge TAM and oh my gosh, I can go after this whole market. At some point somebody comes to you and says, we need to go vertical, right, in order to better connect with the customers. And it's one game-changing and two nerve-wracking, right? So I guess, John, let's start with you, and then I'd like to get a fresh perspective for somebody that's hopping into a company that's making that transition. How was the decision made to actually start to focus on verticals?
Yeah, I feel your pain, Robert, as some famous quote. I understand the complexity of this decision, and my perspective comes from two dimensions. One is I'm the CEO who has to make this kind of decision together with my team at my company, but I also happen to serve and provide go-to-market strategy and consulting to all of our clients. And so I've seen this decision play out from many angles for a very long time. And I think one thing I would say is there's there's probably more than two, but there's two key levels for when we talk about industry targeting or specialization or focus. One would be the deeper level, which is, you're literally developing different products for different industries and then taking them to market in relevant ways. And the next level up is it really is a horizontal play, and this is still impactful, but it's not quite as taking it from the product up. It's really what you're really verticalizing is your go-to-market, not necessarily your capabilities. And so that's one thing I would tease out is which decision are you making, which decision do you need to make? And then the one that I've seen more often is less around we're going to develop an entirely different platform for FinServe or different, more around the go-to-market version of verticalization. And what I would say there is our customers' pain, they don't care about our strategy. They don't give a shit about it. So all pain is local. And that means all marketing and selling has to be local. And the number one way, the easiest, most obvious, way to be local for our customers is to talk to them in the industry that they wake up and pay their mortgage with. So I've come a long way on how I think about this. I think that if you're not doing industry-level personalization and targeting in your go-to-market, it's borderline malpractice. Mic drop.
No, I'll build on that because RingCentral absolutely taken the horizontal product and giving it vertical depth. And I can't answer the what decision was made to, decision part of this, but, what I've found is well-established teams of vertical expertise. So that, they've set up a vertical principle, for FinServe or for healthcare, and are really like adding depth to, the conversation and adding thought leadership into, into that space rather than, everybody knows who RingCentral is in the comms part, for UC and C. No one knows us in healthcare, and that's really what you change. The technology, because open platforms and integrations, is down. It's the messaging and giving I didn't know you, solving the I didn't know you did that for us in each vertical.
Yeah. So Thomas, you're like in the exact opposite situation. You couldn't get any deeper into a vertical than what you guys are doing.
No, you couldn't. And I'm gonna. I don't mean to be mean in the next 30 minutes, but I come from you, and I've been in auto, so I'm gonna have some words for you here that I think you ought to hear. So yeah. So yes, that's what we did. I decided that I was just really tired of what I thought was a lot of problems in the technology stack. I didn't like unified communications. I never have. I think CPaaS has missed the boat so many times it angered me. And so when I sold my last startup to Medallia, I got just so twisted. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to go someplace where they don't know a thing about communications or technology, but they know about their customers and the problems they're trying to solve. And I'm going there with a white piece of paper. And by gosh, I did. And it was beautiful because we found things and solved problems that we've never tried to solve, therefore never did. And I really got a big dose of, you're right, all marketing is local. Because I can tell you what I can tell you today that I couldn't tell you 3 years ago is that the only thing a car guy cares about is selling more cars. What do they care about? Selling more cars. It's the problem they're trying to solve. And if I'm a salesman, I'm going to be selling them a solution to the problem they're trying to solve.
And if you walk in there talking horizontal CPaaS-y stuff,
oh man,
you're going to get your clock cleaned.
Clock cleaned.
Yeah.
And that's real. 100% real, and I've lived it. And just the last thing I want to say is, I hope you heard this, Vinny, he called us a tech company, which was not the
Did I say
smallest
that?
of our problems.
I don't remember that. We'll have to roll back the tape here later.
Yeah, for sure. You said, a couple tech companies, and I'm like, oh, okay.
No, but you guys really are transforming into a tech company, which is
Well,
going to play in
so yes, and we kind of couldn't help it, because the thing that we found, and I hope you agree that it's like this, but the thing that we found was such a glaring hole in the communication stack that other verticals aren't able to ignore it. Even though we discovered it because someone from the automotive market says, I need to know this, and there was no way to know that. This came out of the vertical market saying, hey, this is a very horizontal way of being. And maybe I felt that way because I come from you, but nonetheless, this is a real case where the vertical surfaced an invention that every horizontal can use. So it's the exact opposite. We aren't coming to the vertical, it came out of the vertical.
Yeah. So once you've made the decision to get into a vertical, like John, you guys are firmly entrenched, certainly B2B. If that's vertical, it's certainly a thing, right? But you've got certain industries that you work in, automotive, a little bit of everything, right? At some point, you've got to make a decision. What's that next vertical that you're going to get to? And I remember doing tons of research, Gartner, and random downloads of probably dark web data on future forecasts and stuff, but doing a lot of analysis around the market potential. All right, what are some of the steps that you guys have taken to identify that next vertical and do it with enough confidence that, like Thomas, you can go to Vinny, John, you can go to your investors and yourself, and then you can go to the next layer up at RingCentral. But what are some of those steps that you guys have taken?
Well, I can tell you how I came to Strolid at the first place and how I would do it again. So for me, it was a perfect match. Lots of conversations, high ticket item, sales orientation, crappy tech. And I figured if that was the perfect spot for me to land to do this, all the demand, none of the tech supply. And so as we think about the next vertical we can go in, and this is sort of a joke, we sell franchise cars, new cars for every dealership in the United States. We could go into our next vertical, which could be trucks. Which actually tells you about how verticalized you want to get. If you're 10,000 miles away, I can tell you there's 10 verticals, but you get in the automotive, actually it's not just automotive, it's RV, automotive, leisure sports. In the commercial light truck side, and there's all the heavy stuff. So even the verticals have verticals. Yeah. But the one that I would absolutely go into next is, what's the next big ticket item where tech sucks? And I would say mortgages, big ticket items, lots of conversations, no real support. Yeah. That's where I go.
Yeah, I would say don't guess. You shouldn't have to guess.
Nice.
Right? So how do you not guess when it comes to picking a vertical that's going to deserve extra focus? One is go dig into your data, your former customers, your current customers. 2, talk to your salespeople. 3, really go through your marketing system and see what kinds of contacts and personas and accounts and use cases are resonating. From the presentation earlier, when we talk about defining your target audience and your ideal client profile, industry is burned on every B2B ideal client profile for a reason. It's because it's always important. But I think you can go deeper than just the data in your systems of record. I think you can also go and ask yourself, who do I know? There's the human graph. Who do I have relationships with? Where do we have case studies and references and testimonials? And then, so that's around selecting a vertical. And then what do you do about it? I think maybe this conversation will go there, but I think it's fascinating. Once you've chosen a vertical or 2 or 3, then you're signing up for operationalizing that decision. And you got to go deeper than an image on your homepage, man. You got to take it seriously, which I think you were alluding to as well.
Right. I think what we're going to do first, actually kind of feed off of both of those, or we're going to do next is, as an industry, we got very token about verticals. Oh, we do healthcare. Yeah, everybody says that. I mean, so I will say, in my 2 months, yeah, RingCentral is really deep into healthcare. But the messaging for a clinic is different than talking to a CTO at a hospital network. So I think we're, along those same lines, we're probably going to get deeper on the message at a sub-vertical level, and get one layer down.
How big is healthcare? Healthcare is an industry of industries.
Right. And going, like I said, I think healthcare is used to comms and other industries giving kind of token lip service to it. And, we have to change that script because the alternative is commodity.
Yeah. Well, and not super surprising, too, because if you have a product which is a horizontal product like telecom, you tend to aggregate around interest and stuff, which is why we have singers at Super Bowls, right? Just the ability to drive enough into the shallowest part of the vertical market tends to be the places where we get a lot of value. But the deeper you get, the more you're not that market, right? And thus the idea of an API, right? Because some customers you just can't reach because you don't know them. You can't reach them. You can't talk to them. You can't sell to them. And the APIs are that technology adapter, which should give you. I think the deepest problem, though, is that the APIs that we have, there isn't enough established business in those verticals yet to really support them in each vertical yet. But I think there would be over time, but not yet.
Yeah. So let's talk about what it takes to actually succeed in a new vertical. So we're working at Creo right now with a CSP that their definition of supporting a vertical was taking all of the UCaaS features and then talking about how those UCaaS features support the vertical, right?
In their language, yeah.
Security. Oh, let's talk about how security helps healthcare. Let's talk about how security blah, 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 right? So, and it's really, really painful to look at that. I guarantee as we look at their data, that's not what's driving success.
Step 1, my product. Step 2, you maybe.
Yeah, yeah, right. So what does it take once you make that decision to actually go in and start to make some headway and start to drive success in a new vertical?
One thing I want to mention is that I think it's okay. Now, it's more than okay. It's actually, I would encourage us, when we're making the decision to take verticalization, vertical targeting seriously, I think it's more than okay to recognize that your go-to-market is very likely going to have a one-to-TAM or one-to-ICP, one-to-many portion of your go-to-market where it's tailored to personas and like cross-vertical personas and needs, right? You're not talking vertically, and that's okay. And then to layer on a more targeted vertical portion of your go-to-market strategy and demand program that is like laser guided on healthcare provider or pharma or FinServ tech, you can do both. That's one thing I think that's worth mentioning. And then the other thing is that if it's also okay to embark and have aspirations to go plant a flag in a new vertical that you maybe don't have, where everybody doesn't know you, where you don't have customer references, but just be honest internally inside your company that we're going to go crack open and beachhead a new market, and it's going to suck for a while. It's going to be hard, versus just pretending that just because just because I put healthcare on a PowerPoint deck that magically it's going to happen,
Yeah.
Those are just a couple of thoughts.
Okay. Go ahead.
I would say the one thing I would add is prove that you have a reason to be talking to them, because you're absolutely right. The target, the target buyer and the personas are different there. Recognize that. I know one of the approaches we're taking is we're going at the pitch decks have some very healthcare focused, or retail or what have you, have very focused use cases. So being able to go to that customer and say, these are the pain points that, it goes back to everything we've been saying all day, these are the pain points we think we can address. Does that align with you? That gives you, validation to be there and having that conversation.
So Thomas, I want to get to you here in a second, but I want to double click on you because RingCentral is a big machine, right? Behind every product marketing manager, you've got product managers, you've got technology, you've got a sales team. You're going out and you're feeling your way through this vertical. What is that next step that you're going to take when you say, yes, we've got somebody that says this is relevant to them? Who's that next person or that next group at RingCentral that you're going to engage in order to drive the move into that vertical?
You mean internally, like at a customer level, or
internally, right? Because it's not just putting words on a sheet. Somebody's actually got to build a solution. Somebody's got to be able to go out and position it for the customer. So who is that in RingCentral that you're?
We do have, kind of for those primary vertical markets, there is an industry principal or a vertical principal. Wow, I just jumped back to Frost, didn't I? No, but we do have a vertical, we have a healthcare principal that is kind of guiding the overlay sales team or the vertical sales teams to, he and, the product marketing team are kind of giving them the content and kind of empowered and he's driving the thought leadership kind of internally and externally and speaking at webinars and healthcare events, things like that. So it is, a concerted effort.
Do you find that as you're digging into a vertical, there's additional functionality or integrations or other ecosystem partners that you've got to bring into the conversation in order to actually have a solution that they care about?
Absolutely. In each of the, I mentioned the use cases, and there's, kind of if there's 3 examples, there's 3 partners for that. Like health device monitoring is something we have a partner to work with that provides integration into notifications and things like that, and building that ecosystem. A partner that does the EHR integrations. Yeah, you can't build it alone.
Yeah.
But I will say too, having an open programmable platform enables that to happen. You can't do any of this with the old PBX doesn't integrate. So having a cloud open platform drives all this.
I'm glad you brought up partners, because I was going to mention that, from my vantage point across multiple industries, we're seeing a genuine increase and rise in companies taking the partner-led growth component of their go-to-market much more serious. And I think partners are so misunderstood. They are, but I mean, partner-led growth is so misunderstood, and I think that's starting to change. And one of the ways that it's misunderstood is, oh yeah, we'll throw some partners in, they'll give us leads. And it's like, if that's how you're treating partners, I doubt it's going well, okay? But if you can analyze the buying journey end to end for your target vertical, partners can really provide that last mile of vertical credibility that a horizontal player might not be able to immediately have. So if you can't go speak healthcare to healthcare, can one of your partners? But if you're going to pull that partner-led growth strategy, take it seriously, and recognize that you're asking your partners to do a big favor for you. So that it needs to be win-win. It can't just be, because I'm great and you should just introduce me to everybody you know.
Yeah. So Thomas, as you guys look to the next automotive-related vertical, what's your process going to be?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to amplify everything you guys just said, because you're absolutely right. And the thing which maybe I've learned it recently, but I sure have learned it, was that the thing which is making us successful at Strolid, because we're weird, right? We are really automotive, and we're really here, okay? And that's not usual. And so what I've come to understand is how deep the relationship thing is. So by that, I mean no one in the automotive market would have given me the time of day if I wasn't part of Vinny's staff. And being part of Vinny's staff gave me the years I needed to be 1/3 of the way to a car guy, right? Authentic. Are you really a car guy? Why are you doing me talking about car guys? You don't know what, right? And that's true in almost every business. And so it's more than just a partner strategy, it's a coupling strategy. And it's a coupling strategy around emotions and trust and relationship. And let me just give you just these two images in your mind. One really worked and one really didn't. And one really worked because it was authentic, and one really didn't because it was not. Okay, and this is two different worlds coming together. Here's the one that worked really well. Did you guys remember when Eminem and Elton John had that duet at the Super Bowl? The place went nuts. Everyone, both communities were going, oh my God, that was the best thing ever. Now, you probably don't remember the time that Liberace had a ABC special where he played Jackson 5 without the Jackson 5.
Ouch.
Right. Just Google that. And it was the least authentic thing you possibly could have imagined. Here's a guy pretending to be funky, and it's Liberace, and he's not funky. And so
I'm going to totally YouTube that.
You should do that.
It sounds exquisitely awkward.
It's horrible. But just think of this, that emotional thing, the trust that you're trying to present, that you're trying to engender into your community in that vertical. How we've been successful is simply that my engineering team, which has had several telecom exits, now writes car software. We do it every day, and we're real in that market. And we couldn't fake it. You can't just say it. You can't just say, oh, look who we are now. It doesn't go far. But I'll tell you, you dive in deep with your partners and be them and be with them, oh, it's magic.
Yeah. Yep. So we've made the jump to we're gonna go vertical. We've identified verticals. Maybe we're expanding verticals. How do we get that next step? Because you got to have the board. You've got to have the executive team on board if you're going to be marshaling resources, creating partnerships. What are those things that the executive team and the board need to see in order to say, yep, this makes sense. We weren't doing that yesterday, but tomorrow we're going to do this?
What I would recommend is if you're embarking on a vertical strategy that's either a new vertical, or even if it's an old vertical that has just been sitting inside of your one-to-many go-to-market, and now you're like, oh my God, we actually already are in healthcare. We're just not acting like we're in healthcare. So there's two versions of that. I think this is a fantastic place for an ABM growth play that is guided by a go-to-market playbook that was written specifically, not only for that vertical, but to find the beachhead within the vertical. So I think you need to think small, not big, especially in the beginning. So if you wake up in the morning and there's 150 beaches, each beach is a vertical, you pick a vertical, that's that beach, but go deeper and say, where on that beach are we gonna land the first 100 accounts or even 50 accounts? And then go get really humble about what you're about to learn, and then get really personalized, targeted, and focused. And don't just make it be the one job of your product marketing manager. Pull together a cross-functional team that's responsible for learning and driving pipeline and growth. So, which is another way of saying doing a really proper ABM motion.
Yeah. So as a CEO, somebody's got an idea. Let's go after telecom, right? What are the things that you need to hear from the person that's pitching you? Say, you know what? That new vertical sounds right.
All the things that should be in that strategy. If you walk in and you go, because I think it's cool, like that's not an answer. It's literally you're asking for an investment, an incremental investment, and it needs a business case that is backed by data and a strategy. And also a plan that isn't, trust me, a plan that says we're going to start small, this is phase one, this is how we know, and 60 days after launch, we're going to be looking at these kinds of metrics around engagement and reach. And then 120 days in, we're going to be expecting, the first sort of qualified accounts, qualified leads to be coming out. And by the end of Q2, if we don't have at least X opportunities and Y in pipeline, we need to pause and say, what's not working here? That's how I would pitch me.
Yeah. Thomas, how are you going to, or how did you make the pitch?
Well, okay. Well, how about I say how I pitched it, because this is what we just did. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll be backwards looking. Yeah. So I pitched it, and Vinny and I came together on understanding that our respective talents and assets and relationships came with different sets of challenges and different sets of advantages. And we know that Strolid's business had a critical flaw, which was we're a services business, and so we're easily churned. And there's not a big margin to it. That's a fundamental business model problem. Technology doesn't have that business model problem, but we have other business model problems, like we sit here and imagine what our customers want. Vinny never does that. Okay, just to say that. And so so when I pitched it, I pitched penicillin, which is this business will forever be in danger because of a fragile economics it sits on. And the thing that technology and software and tools can do for you is solve that direct business model problem. It's worth your investment. And vice versa, he saw it the same way. When you come to verticals and you have relationships and deep relationships with those in the verticals, what is it that your company can do which is a penicillin problem for the vertical that you're entering? What can't they do without? What do they have to have? And that was the joint investment, because it's not your investment, it's our investment, right? And so it had to be penicillin for both sides. And so, and what was our penicillin? I'll tell you, we were so far away from the customer. I've never had the chance to do the job that I designed a product for. I never had that, and now I did. And what a joy it was to actually live and breathe the lives of my customers' problems, because it gave me an opportunity to really fix them deeply and honestly. So that's how I came to it. I said, there's a critical business model flaw. You need penicillin. We can trade it, and it worked out really well.
Cool.
Basically, we're doing exactly what you said. It really is a joint effort between product marketing, the vertical principal, the ABM team. We have bi-weekly calls with all of them to go, okay, here's our progress on this vertical.
Like a cross-functional pod
Yeah,
that has
exactly.
been goaled with a vertical growth goal. That's awesome.
And coordination of, here, we see the leads on the one side from the ABM, and, here's what we're going to push into, the thought leadership pieces, and here's where we're pushing into space. So that's,
Cool. All right. So let's open up.
executing on that.
Open it up to y'all. What questions do you have? What challenges are you seeing around verticalization? Are you making the leap, or are you considering the leap?
You should.
Who's considering a leap into verticals today, but hasn't gotten there yet? Okay. Who's already? Well, yeah. Who's already doing verticals? Wow. So 3 people doing verticals. A bunch of people not doing verticals? Is that what I'm seeing? Okay. Is there any consideration around taking your platform and going after like a healthcare or a logistics or anything like that, or does that just not fit your business model?
I wonder if there isn't a, I'm such a nerd. I wonder if there isn't like a verticalization maturity model that is worth talking about here, which is like layer 1 is we're doing website verticalization, which means it's a piece of wallpaper. Layer 2 might be we actually are we're in the early stages of doing it. Layer 3 might be, no, we're seeing results from a proper cross-functional verticalized. And then layer 4 might be like, we're developing separate products for these verticals. We are so far in.
Yeah.
And I since I just made up a framework, I just think it's interesting, like, I'd love to
Write that
ask,
down.
if I can,
Yeah.
like, layer 1, which is like, call it marketing verticalization. Layer 2, no, we're really doing it cross-functionally, but it's early days. Layer 3, it's working. Layer 4, we're developing products. Who's in layer 1 right now of verticalization? So it's like thinner, yeah. Who's in layer 2? So you're actually going to market with verticals and you're starting to see pipeline. Yeah. Layer 3, it's working. It's working. And then layer 4, products. You're developing products for it. That's interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, you live in it. That's awesome. I didn't mean to. I just think that's an interesting way to.
Yeah, that was a great way to ask it. Okay.
Well, thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for our session. We've got coming up next is going to be the world famous Showcase Challenge. Yeah. So,
Sounds rough.
Yep. Like Kevin said, we got to get the cage set up in here, and then you guys will come back in and we'll watch the death match. So, thanks for sticking with us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.